let's move on to the Manchester derby then. What was Kevin De Bruyne's 22nd and final
Do we have
Manchester
to, mate? Do we
derby?
have to?
Yeah, I think we do. I mean,
Yeah.
Old Trafford was the venue then for what was a dull, disappointing goalless draw between Man United and Man City on Sunday. Yeah, there was not a lot to get excited about, was there? I think you
No.
said on your Esteemed Company channel, Stephen, that this was one of, if not the worst Manchester derby of your lifetime. Do you stand by that? How disappointed
Yeah,
were
I
you at
do.
that of
I
the
do. Even when we
performance?
were getting spanked when I was a kid, with like Chelsea's scoring hat tricks and all that against us, there was still quality for United. Like this was so bad. Like even because at least United battered us and they scored some goals and it was some entertainment. This was such a poor, uninspiring, drab, you know, damp squib of a game of football. There was absolutely nothing to it, like no spark. United had some slight decent moments, but even then, when they got towards our goal, the only reason they didn't score is because they were abject in front of goal as well. United, they were just bad. The decision making was terrible for them. They even conspired to try and give us chances. They were giving the ball away sloppy at the back a few times, but City's response to getting the ball 30 yards from United's goal was just to run into nowhere and get tackled. So both teams were utterly clueless going forward. A shocking lack of ambition. I actually sort of agree with people who've gone a little bit, modern football, angriness after as well. All the players are hugging on the pitch afterwards, like a testimonial. It felt, I mean, it was sort of symbolic of the game, really. It felt like both sides were playing within themselves. Neither side had any true ambition to go and win the game. No, like I'm sure they wanted to win the game, but it didn't feel like they were desperate to win the game. It didn't feel like either were bothered by the idea of a draw, and you could tell by the full time whistle. So yeah, I mean, it was drab and truly drab. I mean, it felt frustrating as a City fan watching City revert back to the winter version of Manchester City, essentially. I read some stats about how some stats about City's success in winning second balls. So obviously when the header goes up in the air or whatever, who picks up the loose ball, and City was so poor at that in the first half of the season. And I'm just going to sort of summarise, but essentially we were like mid to lower in terms of scooping up second balls, be it defensively or offensively or whatever. We're now the second best, if not the best in the league after February the 1st. And that coincided with all the young players playing. Nico Gonzalez coming in, Savinho played all the games, Marmoush played, Kusanov. We were so much better offensively and defensively since February the 1st, winning second balls because the average age went down. We worked so hard defensively. So to go from that, to go from a team much more physically capable, much more defensively in tune with each other, to then just going back to the old plays again. Look, I understand why Guardiola has this sort of loyalty to them, but as a City fan, it felt sort of frustrating because I do think City have been better. Not perfect, no, but definitely um, more functional and more 2025 in terms of how we play, since the new signings came in and we were playing a bunch of 20-year-olds, a bunch of 23-year-olds, and 25, 26-year-olds. It just felt younger. It felt more like we were looking forward to the future. And the frustration for me is I don't know how the likes of Nico Gonzalez and Kusanov and Savinho get to that level if they're not playing in games like this. Like they should have played at Old Trafford. Like to me, that is, that even if United are naff right now, that is still, a big game because it is. And I feel like they should be experiencing Old Trafford because they are unequivocally the future of Manchester City. And right now, we need them to learn because it's essential that they take the next step forward. So for me, sitting there watching us go back to the team and the lineup that suffered so badly during winter and put City on an historically bad run of form. I didn't understand the logic of it. I just didn't get it. And I think the results showed that. I think City didn't create anything of note. The only chances we really had was one sort of decent ball from Nico rallying behind a young lad to the new lad. That shot was blocked anyway. And then there was one bit where the ball ricocheted to Foden. Other than that, there was absolutely nothing, genuinely nothing, and no creativity. It looked slow, uninspired, and it felt sort of self-inflicted because I can't help but feel you play a slightly different team. Savinho, who's our best creator by a long way this season. Nico Gonzalez, who's physically capable and had a good start to life at Manchester City. Maybe even Kuznov gets a game. And I think this is a different Manchester City side. I think it's more assertive. But Guardiola shows that side. I love the man, but I just really could not understand it. I think United were there for the taking. They kept giving the ball away to us, and we just had no answer or solution what to do with it, which was really frustrating to watch.
Yeah, really frustrating overall from both teams. It was just a non-entity really, real lack of quality, lack of energy, intensity. There was no real risk taken from any of these teams. Yeah,
No.
like I said, they were just happy to sort of play out for a draw, really, which, from the fans' perspective, that's not what we want. We wanted that excitement that the Premier League brings, and yeah, they're just really disappointing overall. I think there was a stat from the first half from City. They won also just 28% of their duels, which is the lowest from City this season. So that midfield in particular,
Passive.
yeah.
It's frustratingly passive. That I got. I think I tweeted at one point, like I'm just frustrated with the inaction. Like it felt like there was no reaction to anything that's happened on the pitch. The players were not winning challenges, and this is not a great United side. With all due respect, it isn't. It's actually it's by objectively, statistically, the worst Manchester United side in Premier League history. Like they cannot get higher than the lowest points total in Premier League history. And obviously, football was invented for the Premier League, but that's a long period of time. We're talking, like about 30 years, 31 years, 32 years of Premier League football, and this is the worst Man United side since that started. So they were winning the ball, and City were just winning, and like that's entirely down to physicality. I mean, it's physicality and hunger. And yeah, I don't know. I just go back to the point I made before. You want to see what they can do. That's what I want. I want to see how these characters can step up in a game. I want to see if Nico Gonzalez and Savinho and Kusanov, if they want to play at Old Trafford in Manchester Derby, the games that they've watched as a kid, almost certainly. I want to see how they react to that. I don't need to know what Kevin De Bruyne, Gundogan, and Bernardo Silva and Kovacic can do there because we know the answer. We've seen it a billion times, and obviously all these players have their own qualities and merits. And Bernardo I thought actually did pretty well defensively, and look, I understand why Kevin De Bruyne started, but it was the fact that there was no reaction as well. Grealish and Rico Lewis came on, and I was like Doku, and it just did. I didn't understand the substitutions either. They made no sense to me. So yeah, just limp really and frustrating as a fan watching that because it's a derby, and we need. And look, to be honest, we needed the victory because I'm looking at the Premier League table right now. And we've actually, in my opinion, just put it out of our hands in terms of getting Champions League football. Um, Newcastle have got two games in hand. They only need to win one of them to jump Manchester City into fifth place, and they'll probably get 4 points. At that point, we're hoping for mistakes then from Chelsea and Newcastle, and I presume City will drop more points. I presume Villa, the resurgent Aston Villa right now as well. I presume they will win more games. So yeah, it's going to be difficult. It's going to be very difficult.
Yeah, as you mentioned then, we're recording this on Monday, but City could drop down to sixth if Newcastle just win at least one of those two games in hand they've got. And Guardiola said after the match that he's not concerned about whether City will qualify for the Champions
I
League.
am, mate.
Yeah, I'm going to say after watching that derby, you must be
He
concerned and thinking,
should be. Like, I love Pep, but like, I don't know if he's doing the whole thing where he doesn't really tell the truth in press conferences because he wants to defend his players. But at the same time, he also came out and said Nunes wasn't smart enough to play midfield, which I agree with what it's worth. And by that, he doesn't mean like, he's not questioning his arithmetic. I mean, he means football intelligence and his spatial awareness. But the point is, if he's going to be that blunt about a player, you can only presume he's being blunt about and honest about his summation of that game. That is not good enough. Like, I really aggressively disagree with that. Like, that is, if that's the level, we are not going to get Champions League football. We just will not. And I love him dearly and would never, I don't, like, he knows a billion times more than all of us combined about football. He truly does. I just don't get how someone can sit there and go, "Oh yeah, that'll be enough that level to get Champions League football." No, it won't. It just won't. By any measure, that will not. Like if we play like that against Palace, which we'll get onto in a bit, they will beat us. We go away to Goodison, they will score and they'll beat us. Villa will beat us. Like this is the thing is with that level of football. And look, I won't go as far as say Southampton will beat us because I mean that sounds silly. But we got Bournemouth up, we got Fulham away. Like previously, these were bankers 2 or 3 years ago for City, but right now, if we play like that against United, that's difficult conversations will be had because we will not be getting Champions League football with that level of football. Just that's in my opinion, that's just a given.